Everyone, Mr. Denton here with you one final time. Today we're going to take this all the way down to the local level and to you, okay? Typically speaking, we would go through, a lot more detail on a lot of things. We would bring in guest speakers to speak with you specifically on the local level of government. That's where we get most of our instruction from, is from those folks. But we are going to hit on some of those things today, and understanding most of all what your role is, understanding that you're a part of a lot of different communities and what those communities are supposed to offer you, but also what you're supposed to offer to them. Okay, so I mentioned last time, you may live in a different state. It's your job as a citizen of that state to know what that state, how it's responsible to you and how you are responsible to it. But it goes a lot deeper and a lot further than that. You are not just a member of, Richland County or Olney or Noble or wherever. You're also a citizen of all the different groups, your neighborhood, your church, your school, clubs, your workplace, all those kinds of things. You're a citizen of all those places, and you have got to know and understand what that means to you and what it means to your communities that you're in. All right, so we're going to move quickly through this today, but it's really important stuff. Okay, so we'll start with this. What is a citizen? Okay, you look in a dictionary, it's going to tell you this: a person who is a member of a particular country and who has rights because of being born there or because of being given rights, or a person who lives in a particular town or city. I think I got that off dictionary.com or something. Okay, reality though. What is a citizen? A citizen is a member of any community who benefits from that community, who is guaranteed rights by that community, and who is responsible and accountable to that community. Okay? So we're going to look at different levels of citizenship today. All right? And we mentioned this last time. Okay? Why the upside down pyramid here? Well, home, this first one we're going to look at, is the smallest, and in terms of power, the least powerful community that you are a member of. But when it comes to your life, it's the most powerful. It's the most influential. It's the most important realm of your life. It's the one that you have the most impact on and the one that has the most impact on you. So it's why the upside down pyramid? Well, up at the top, you've got the big federal national government, and it's really big and it's really important, and it makes all the other levels possible, but it's the farthest one away from you. Okay? So you'll see that theme pop up over and over again here. Level 2, school. Now, eventually, this will be your workplace, or some of you got both of these going on right now. Our school or workplace is a community too. These are the people we interact with outside of our homes. So you got home, and then you got that core group of people that you interact with outside of home every day. That's another community. All right. You're a citizen of the village or town or city, county in which you live, that local level of government. Okay. Very important. State level, we looked at last time. Our country's made up of 50 states, a district, and 5 territories. You're a citizen of whatever state or territory where you live. You're always going to be a citizen of a state, as long as you live in the United States of America. It may not always be Illinois, but you're going to be a citizen of a state. And then lastly, at least on our upside down pyramid, you've got the nation. You're a citizen of the nation in which you live. Okay? So what are some other communities that you're a citizen of? Extended family, organizations, teams, churches, your neighborhood, humanity itself. Okay? And you've probably thought of other ones that I didn't mention there. And it's important to understand. It's like, your neighborhood, for instance, or your extended family, or whatever teams or organizations that you're a member of, all of those are going to be different from each other. And you're going to have different roles within each of those. And there's going to be different expectations of you within each of those. And it's just like, your class, in any given day, just within school, you're in 4 different communities, from one classroom to the next. You have to figure out that teacher and what they expect of you, what the rules are, what that classroom is going to be like, who the other kids are in that class, what things you need to be thinking about and sensitive about, and, so on and so on. Okay? That's citizenship in and of itself. All right? So, sources of rights and responsibilities. Each of those levels provide rights and responsibilities. How do they go about doing that? Okay? Where do rights and responsibilities come from? Different places, depending on the level of citizenship that you're talking about. So we're going to start at the top of that upside down pyramid, and look at the federal constitution, federal laws. At the federal level, it comes from that constitution, from those laws. In the United States, we're guaranteed a list of rights in our constitution. Okay? 10 amendments. All right? Rights and responsibilities also come from laws passed by the United States Constitution. Okay? State level, very similar. Okay? Each state has its own constitution and laws that list rights and responsibilities of the state citizens, but those only apply to citizens of that state and people who are in that state. Okay? You go to a different state, then that changes, and you've got to be aware of that. All right? Same thing within a city. Cities have usually a charter that tells how the city's going to run, and then includes some rights and responsibilities of the citizens of that city, but the smaller you go, that's going to be probably more limited. Cities have laws usually called ordinances that list more so rules that apply to living in that city. Okay, so I took this picture at the park. Okay, and so you see some things there that are specific to that area. All right, school has a handbook. Most schools do. We've stopped quite a while back handing those out to you guys. We used to hand them out at the beginning of every school year, and then we would take quizzes on them and everything else. Now they're available online, and you guys have got access to them. It's important for you guys, even though we don't hand those out in physical form anymore, that you know and understand what's expected of you and what your rights are. Although there aren't many rights in student handbook usually. Okay, it's usually a list of responsibilities more so than anything else. We're going to talk about that more here in a second, what that means. Okay, and then at home, it's mostly informal. Your parents probably don't hand you a contract most of the time. Some of your parents, that may be the way they do things, but most of the time you're not going to have a written contract that you sign that has a list of rules and so on that you follow, but you know what they are. Everybody knows what the rules of the house are, and you know when you break them. For the most part. So that's there. Okay, so there's that upside down pyramid one more time. You see the levels, the realms there over on the right hand side, and then what provides the rights and responsibilities one more time there. Okay, so what are rights? Rights are privileges or claims to something. Okay, so Federal Constitution guarantees, I'm talking about what kinds of rights these things provide. Federal Constitution guarantees really big rights, okay? Really broad rights. They're not super specific to day-to-day things, okay? They're really big and really important. Freedom of speech, freedom to worship, right to a jury trial in some kinds of cases. Those rights apply to everyone living in the United States, okay? Everyone living here, not just citizens. That's a kind of an important thing to know and understand. Why? Why is that? Well, when the founders wrote the Constitution and when they put the Bill of Rights together, they saw these rights as so universal and so important. If we're going to put them in there, and if they're really this important, then they should belong to everyone who is walking on American soil. Okay? If we believe in these things so much, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are guaranteed these rights, but you're also held accountable to those laws too. Okay. Important to understand though that those rights don't include voting in federal elections or running for federal office, serving on a jury in a trial. Those things are only rights that belong to United States citizens. And yes, serving on a jury is a right. Okay, it's also a responsibility, but it's a privilege. State constitutions usually repeat many of the rights that are listed in the federal constitution, but a lot of times they add more. We talked about this when we were talking about the states last time. State constitution might guarantee the right to a free education, okay, or equal rights for men and women, but they can't take rights away. They can't contradict what is guaranteed in the Constitution. Okay? City laws, these give you the right to services. Okay? And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. We'll get into this example a little bit more when we get into the student handbook. But a lot of times these rights and laws are a different form of protection. Okay? Why do they have those rules there in the park? To provide a safer, more enjoyable park for everyone else. Okay? School handbook. Okay? So we're going to dig in on that concept a little bit more here. First glance, if you open up student handbook, you're not going to see very many rights. Okay? Just a lot of stuff that you can't do. Okay? Sometimes, though, rights are on the flip side of a responsibility. Okay? So you see an example of that over there on the right. No smoking. You may look at that and see something that you're being told something you can't do in a school. But it's also silently saying that you have the right to something else. All right? So you have that sign over there on the right-hand side that says no smoking. That's telling you can't smoke, but what is it guaranteeing you the right to do? Breathe fresh air in a school when you're trying to learn. Okay? So it's important to understand that in any community that responsibilities a lot of times equal rights. Okay? They amount to rights. At home, the adults in charge are the ones that give you rights, and those are really important rights that exist, but they only exist at home. You might have the right to your own room, the food that your parents buy, or your guardians, whoever it is that is your family that you live with, and so on. Okay, so again there, you see some examples. TV, video games, stuff like that, those rights that you have at home, that stuff's not in the Constitution. And it's not a city ordinance that you get to play video games, but that's a right that your parents might give you. Okay? So, examples there. All right, getting closer to the end here. Responsibilities, what are those? Those are duties to other people, the government, or to society. All right, so we're going backwards here on this one. What are your rights at home? I'm sorry, we're on responsibilities. Sorry. So what are your responsibilities at home? Again, that's going to amount to the adults that are in charge at home. Okay. Now here's the thing. Some of you, and I know I've got students that are living on their own at this point already. Okay. You're the adult in charge now. And, you have whatever rights you give yourself. If that's the case, you also have responsibilities. And if you don't fulfill those responsibilities, then you're going to have problems. Okay. If you do live in a home where there are adults in charge and you don't fulfill your responsibilities, again, you're going to have issues. So the thing is, when you become an adult, you can't pretend like there aren't responsibilities. There's more responsibility, and there's higher stakes and more consequences if you don't fulfill those responsibilities. Okay? But at home, you might have to sweep the floor, get groceries, walk the dog. There's no law that says that you have to walk the dog. Okay? There's no law that says that you have to sweep the floor in the kitchen. But if your folks give you a responsibility to fulfill and you don't, that's going to have a pretty big impact on your life if they follow up and on that. Okay. At school, you're responsible for knowing the rules and following the rules, and usually those rules revolve around maintaining a safe and productive learning environment. In fact, sometimes there are rights that, one of the few places in America where not all rights apply is in schools, because schools are such a unique setting. You have so many young people, so many defenseless people there, and they are there for such a special reason to learn that you can't there are things that you can do almost everywhere else that you can't do in a school. And there are some things when it comes to your privacy that you give up in a school for the betterment of the good of the whole population in that school. Okay. So that's why, police can randomly come in and do drug searches and things like that. Anywhere else, they pretty much have to have a warrant. That stuff changes when you walk onto school grounds. Okay. So schools have special circumstances, again, within each classroom, behavior, athletic, if you want to participate in sports teams, there's certain requirements you have to fulfill, etc. Okay. So then you got city ordinances, charters, etc. Even if something just lists a fine, okay, it's important to understand that fine basically is a responsibility. Okay. So, if it just says no smoking, $200 fine, that's a responsibility, that you'll have to fulfill. Okay. I'm sorry, not smoking, running over a white squirrel. Okay. So state, one of the biggest responsibilities you have, if you are already working and you get a paycheck, you're going to see a chunk of that's taken out that goes to the state. And that's one of the biggest responsibilities that you'll have, again, in any community, in any society. If you want it to amount to anything or mean anything, if you're going to have roads and bridges and so on, and schools and policemen and all that kind of stuff, it all costs money. And so we all have to chip in, and that's where you're gonna see that responsibility come up on your paycheck. Constitution does not have a list of responsibilities for citizens, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any. Okay, Constitution creates a government. It's a government by the people, and by definition, if the people don't participate, then it doesn't exist. Okay, then it doesn't work. Okay, you can't have a jury trial if everybody refused to serve on the jury, if no citizens would do it. What if nobody showed up to vote? Okay, what would happen then? Okay, we have responsibilities even though they're not listed there in the Constitution. Okay, so everyone in the United States has a responsibility to obey the law, and it's important to understand too, rights and responsibilities clash sometimes. Okay, an example of that, if you walked into a movie theater, crowded movie theater, and yelled fire. Okay, now you guys probably see where I'm going with this. Everyone has a right to freedom of speech, but if that speech infringes on the rights of other people or endangers other people's lives, then you don't have the right to do that. Okay, if you walk into a movie theater and yell fire, and someone gets trampled to death because you thought you were going to play a joke, you're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Okay, obviously. So there are those cases, there are those instances. All right. So again, there you see that upside down pyramid with examples of different responsibilities at those different levels of government. And hopefully you're starting to get the picture here, and hopefully your mind is going other places. You're thinking about some of those other realms, some of those other communities that you're a part of, and what your rights and responsibilities are, and understanding that you have to be responsible. Don't just think on the end. There's got to be a balance. Don't just think. Communities owe us something. There are privileges that go along with being members of a community, and that community should give to us. And we should hold them accountable if they don't do what they're supposed to do. On the flip side of that, we should be held accountable if we don't do what we're supposed to do. Okay, so we have rights in every community that we're in. We have responsibilities in every community that we're in, and we have to give and not just take. Okay, extremely important. Any community that's filled with a bunch of people that don't give and just take, it's going to flop, and everybody's going to wind up being miserable in the end. Okay, so unfortunately, this slide doesn't apply a whole lot because this is going to be the end of the road for us, and it's unfortunate because I think this is a really important class and had a lot of really exciting, cool things that I love to do in the classroom, so that you guys, more than anything else, gain an appreciation for the world that you live in, the communities that you live in, and what your responsibilities are within those communities. Hopefully, you take that with you, if nothing else, that you've got a role everywhere you go, and you need to take pride in that and understand how important your role is in every community that you're in, and understand that it means something, and do the best that you can to fulfill that role as well as you possibly can, and know that when you do that, it's going to come back to you in a good way. Okay, so I appreciate all you guys that have listened to all these lectures and put up with listening to me stumble around through. I've learned a lot doing this as well, but and I wish we could have done this in person. But you guys are going to take this with you forever. You're going to take this experience with you forever. I wish you guys the best, especially you seniors. And appreciate all you guys have done for our school, our community, and you guys have got my email address. Never hesitate to let me know if I can do anything for you. And I'll see you all soon. You just take care of yourselves out there and let me know if you need anything. Okay, take care.